Hey guys, welcome back to Tower of God. In today's video, we're going to be doing a tier list for the game, or we're going to be doing 5 tier lists because we're going to do it in separate elements, colors, whatever you want to call it. We've got the 5 colors in this. We've got the purple, yellow, green, red, and blue. We're going to go through them all. Now, for credits for this one, I have to give a massive shout out to Shiro over on Discord. I'll leave this Google Doc, which he made, which we're going to go through the images of, in the description. So if you want to go through, he's done a write-up on his thoughts on every character. Now, Shiro also has this Twitter. I'll leave that linked as well. You can follow him over on Twitter, but essentially he's been playing on the early access. He's got every character. He's got some maxed out. He was in like the top 10 to 20 on the soft launch server. But just keep in mind with this stuff, it's super early days. It's 6 days of soft launch. Also in idle games, often the end game meta is completely different to the early game meta. So take this with a massive bucket of salt and know that it's just too early to have a definitive tier list. But honestly, he made the best one that I've seen. And judging off of his account, he's had the most insight so far of anyone I've spoken to. And also I'm going to go in through and talk about them because there's some changes I would make based on my experience, because this is based on his experience. And hey, it's all about just trying to put it all together and see what we can come up with at the end of the day, because the game has just launched. By the time I upload this, the game will probably be out already. So let's get into it. The one thing I want to caveat is we're going to look at these in different elements. So this is going to be yellow, purple, red, then we got green and blue. But just know that just because he's S tier in red doesn't mean if I put an overall tier list, he would be S tier compared to Evan. It would split up. But we're looking at this in elemental because in this game, elemental advantage gives you 100% more damage and makes you take 50% less damage. So if you have elemental advantage, it's so huge that I feel like it's hard to just have a blanket tier list. And that's why I think it's better to rank each element on their own in this type of thing. So disclaimers out of the way, let's go through it. I'm going to go pretty quick through it. And like I said, if you want, I'll leave this doc in here. You can read through his explanations on his thoughts. Now, I'm not going to cover every character. I'm just going to cover key ones that I think of. So the first one is going to be Evan. Cracked support. I spoke about him in Who to Reroll For. He's one of the top 2 targets in my opinion. Crazy support. Invincibility, heals based on damage taken, energy recovery, just an absolute monster. Then we got Wang here. Wang's just a crazy DPS. He stacks his own crit damage, his ult's guaranteed to crit, and it has a massive multiplier. He can deal a ton of damage. Bomb here is, you know, MC, they actually made the MC decent for this one, which is pretty cool. So he's just an all-round solid support for buffing your highest, your main unit. So he works really well in that sense. Then the one unit on this list I would move up would be Rack or however you, I just call him Gator. I've only just watched the anime, so I'm still struggling with names, and I've only just started reading the rest. So apologies if I'm bad with names. I'm trying to catch up. So he is a tank, a disruptor, but he's also one of the only other units in the game that can reliably heal his allies. I would actually put him up into A as well, myself personally. Now, Hearts, however you want to say it, here's one that a lot of people rate super high. Now, I know Shiro has him completely maxed, and he just notices that he doesn't quite cut it at higher deficits, and that's why Shiro has put him down here. Honestly, when I used him, only having one copy of him, his damage wasn't crazy, and he wasn't the best survival, so you'll see a lot of people rave about him. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but that was his personal experience in there, where he said after maxing him, he just didn't feel like he had enough oomph. And Shibisu's another one that you'll hear a lot talked about. The first time I used Shibisu, he was absolutely amazing. Every fight after that, I couldn't make him survive. So if you can make him survive, he's great, because what he does is his ultimate makes all your team target one enemy, and if they die within a certain period of time, he gets his energy back. So it's just like, you just basically pick off enemy at a time. His problem is he's squishy as hell, and he's in melee range, and he always just runs further forward than anyone else and gets absolutely smacked. So that's the issues with him. All right, let's move on into the purple element. Now, Karaka here, he is just an absolute monster. I would honestly put him in S tier by himself. I've pulled her. I'm sorry the name's left me. She's the older version of the chick. Once again, I haven't got to them in the reading of it yet, so I'm not too familiar. But she feels like she's going to be more of a boss killer. She's not too useful in campaign, in my opinion, yet that I've done from my testing. So I would actually drop her down a tier and leave Karaka up there by himself, because he is just an absolute beast. He's got a second life. He's got an orb for his his ultimate that he brings out that taunts everyone, so it takes damage and then deals damage based on damage take. He can basically just cheese entire stages. He is the other one that I would reroll for if you're rerolling, along with Evan. Then we have Rachel. Now, Rachel's an absolute monster, especially if you have Karaka with her, because he does an ability where he summons a bunch of orbs around the place, and if enemies hit them, they take damage and get taunted. And basically, she has an ability where she links to the ally with the highest defense and increases her defenses. And if that's him, she'll put a whirlwind around that linked ally, which churns enemies around and drags them in. And what happens is she can do that with him, and it makes them hit those orbs, which is a fantastic combo. She's an absolute monster. I know from what I've heard from people, don't like her. I get it from the anime that I watched, but she's a good unit in the game. Then we have, honestly, great rogue type unit with a cheat death, so she's great at distracting. She's one of the ones I'm probably going to put on my wish list when I start rolling as the max choice, because putting her on the wish list means it increases damage and survivability and allows her to function so much better. Kun is another great one. He's just got crazy amounts of CC, really valuable. He's one that I really want to get maxed, because when they get maxed on constellations, they start with half energy, and his is like basically a field stun lock ult, which is fantastic. Her, just a general great buffer support unit in general all round. He's a good tank. I think this guy's an SR off memory. I haven't tested him myself. This guy a tank, but honestly, because I had Karaka, I never bothered to look into him. The rest of them, I'm not going to go too deep into those units. Okay, let's jump into red. Now we got Ivan Kal, who is an absolute monster. Honestly, if she wasn't one of the core 3 elements, I would put her like as one of the best characters in the game to reroll for. The one problem is when you come against blue, she does struggle, but everything else she absolutely destroys. She has an ultimate that she becomes invincible when using. She has like a sort of cheat death functionality with some healing, and she does tons of damage, like tons. So another fantastic SSR plus. Good control / damage dealer here, and then he's like the tank dude, but he has good self-sustain, decent damage and stuff like that. Now, the one other I want to touch on, she is just annoying as hell to fight against because her ult basically fully heals her. I haven't tested her as a tank, but you know, when you look into faction towers, you might start using some of these SR characters and stuff like that. The other one I want to talk about is her. Once again, sorry, names have left me, but I see a lot of people using her. From talking to Shiro, he's of the mind that she is a good damage dealer and stuff like that. But her issue is that she doesn't have any survivability or like cheat deaths or anything like that, so she can get melted super quick, and that's why she fell lower on his list. Moving on from that, we have the green list. Now, Yuri is the only one I would personally move up to that A+ tier. We get her at the start. She's the other option for me that I would put on my max priority wish list, because she's a tank. She's got great shielding, she increases her defense, but she also deals a truckload of damage, so that is fantastic. Is it Lozil or something like that? Sorry guys, once again, names are struggling me, but the healer, she's A+ because she is like one of the only other healers in the game, as I mentioned earlier, and she buffs all green elements, so there's going to be those units just buff the element, so she's going to help you with your Yuri, stuff like that, and away you go. Now up the top here, I'm not too familiar with him. He's the SSR+. He's the one that I didn't get to test out, so even though he may not be the best SSR+, he's still going to be a strong unit just based on that alone. Moving past that, that pretty much covers the green element and everyone that I want to talk about that I've had personal experience with. And then we'll jump into the blue element. Now, she is an absolute fantastic unit. She is the SSR+. And basically, she's like the best rogue tank distractor to help your team survive unit that there is, because she's got this invincibility that can last a really long time, and she's got really high multipliers. I think she's an absolute beast as well. Once again, she falls into that bucket of being a core 3 element, so she is going to find battles where she is weak to the enemy, which is going to hurt her a bit, but in general, just a fantastic SSR+. This dude does massive amounts of damage. His ultimate is like a massive nuke. He's a gamer dude. It's pretty cool. I do like it. Then moving on to this tier, these guys, he's the tank with some good sustain, good support for allies as well. This dude's got pretty big multipliers, but in testing him, I couldn't get him to work too well. When I read him on paper, he seemed like a big bruiser with massive AoE damage, but In practicality, I haven't got him to work too well myself personally, but it could be due to gear and stuff like that. So we'll have to wait and see. He's going to buff the element, the blue element, so he's going to be useful in that sense as well. And that pretty much covers everything that I want to talk about in this one. So like I said, once again, I'll leave this linked in the description. You can go ahead and read Shiro's summary on each character, or you can go ahead and follow him on Twitter. I'm sure he's going to post all the news there. So massive shout out to Shiro once again, but that is taking a look. Once again, it is super early days. This could change absolutely tons, especially these lower tiers of characters that, you know, we haven't tested too much. But hopefully that gets you guys put in the right direction. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.